Hello, I'm here with Doug to talk about battery malware, and it's Tuesday, March 19, 2024. And that is, of course, my first story. I found a whole series of stories about this. Lawmakers are freaking out about Chinese batteries. Now, over the last few years, as we've been getting more and more hostile with China, we kicked all the Huawei devices off our network, and now we're supposed to take TikTok off our phones. And now we're going to maybe force them to sell TikTok to an American company like Microsoft or somebody. Um, and The TikTok ban, of course, is coming from the theoretical possibility that they might use TikTok to put propaganda for our kids. And the theoretical possibility they might steal the data of our kids and do something unspecified bad with it, as if they couldn't just buy that data on the open market. So the TikTok ban is based on that kind of thinking, and so is this electric grid ban. I didn't know this. Now, I knew batteries are always made, all made in China. Almost no batteries are made in America. And it turns out that they're using them for the power grid, which I did not know. So if you have something like solar power generation, they actually have giant batteries there. They're storing power in to pump them back out into the grid. And those come from China, industrial sized batteries. They come from a company called CATL, in fact. And so they're saying the US government wants people to quit using those batteries, which is going to take like a decade to do gradually, phase them out. And what they say there's a little bit of worry about fire and stuff from just poor construction, but what they're mostly worried about is that those batteries will put malware in the American grid. And the defense from CATL is what I thought. They say CATL's energy storage products sold to the US are passive devices only, which are not equipped with communication interfaces, uh, and they do not have the capability to collect, transfer, or send data, and therefore pose no security threats. However, an expert, Patrick Miller, CEO of Ampere Industrial Security, told CSO magazine there's a control system that sits on top, and it's also Chinese made. So it may not be made by CATL, but it's likely made by a partner company or another Chinese company. So apparently, not only are they batteries, but they're smart batteries, and therefore they might pose a malware risk to the ecosystem. So maybe it makes a little more sense than I thought it did. This reminds me of that story from a few times back where they talked about putting a malware in the printer cartridges in HP printers. You
Yeah,
you have this
yeah.
component and seems pretty unlikely that it could actually attack the grid, but I guess if it's got a hardware control unit that is connected to a communications grid, then I guess you could put like a backdoor in there or something. But like all these things, it's theoretical possibility that a bad thing might happen, which has never happened. And yet we're freaking out and making a huge, expensive move based on sort of xenophobia and hatred of China. Our lawmakers are so convinced China is evil and they're going to destroy us. And I'm not convinced.
Well, is this the new scare like we
The new
had in
Red,
the
the new Red Scare again.
yeah, the new Red Scare.
They're
Yeah,
communists. I mean, they are communists and they're an alternative
right.
system, but do they really want to take over the world and make us communist? I don't think so. I think they want to be business partners with us. They want to sell us stuff and make money, and they want to imitate us and be more like capitalists in order to make more money. I really, and I don't see the expansionist system where they're going to like take over the world and we have to fight them back.
Yeah. A side note, Tesla has a mega battery pack that was in Australia in Queensland. And I believe it stores enough energy to power a city, possibly Victoria, if I remember correctly.
In one Tesla?
Yeah, in one Tesla mega pack battery, and it's enormous. It's the size of containers, several containers.
Wait,
Anyway,
that's not what drives a car then.
no. These I believe they're the same batteries that are
Oh,
in a car,
for the power
which
grid,
are yeah, for the power grid.
right?
And
And where do they
there's
make those? Not in China?
no I no can't answer that,
Oh,
but what I'm getting at is it did catch fire,
oh.
and I believe it burned for 3 or 4 days.
Oh, I know even Teslas do. I mean, the fire
Yeah.
things go is monstrous. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are two types of batteries. One has cobalt in it, which can't really be extinguished because as it burns, it produces its own oxygen. And the other one that's a lithium phosphate that has PO4, meaning the O is for oxygen. You'd think that would liberate a lot of oxygen feed to it, but that one just melts. And that one doesn't really burn as much.
Yeah.
The Tesla batteries, the power walls, I believe first, second generation are the burnable types. And the new one that they're coming out with is the lithium phosphate, the PO4 that doesn't burn, just melts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
well, anyway, that's the big excitement now is the power grid. And I was reading about it. It's people are getting really excited about the cybersecurity of the power grid and possible
yeah,
threats. Anyway,
yeah.
uh,
So that was September of last year, just for reference.
oh yeah.
If
Well, go
people
ahead.
want to look that up.
All right. Well, you've got one.
Yeah, I got this is a really interesting story, and it's why didn't somebody think of this sooner? So squatters have been a problem. Squatters have always been a problem.
Yeah.
And if you're a landlord or a property owner, you might have a piece of property that's for sale, and some squatters move in because they notice the house is vacant, or maybe there's somebody that's passed away, squatters move in, or the last one is that somebody puts an ad up on Meta, Facebook, saying, I've got a house for sale and I'm not able to sell it. So I'm interested in a year lease. If you'd like to lease it, let's make a deal. And so they change the locks and somebody moves in with a valid lease. In all cases, they have to have a paper document that's a lease. And obviously, it's not from the owner, so it's fictitious, it's a bogus lease. So people move in, then a realtor or the homeowner comes by and says, Who are you? And they say, Oh, we live here. And they say, No, you don't, get out. And the police get called, the police come and they look. There's a lease that's bogus, but they say, Oh, this is a civil matter. Then it takes 6 months, maybe a year or more, 20, 50, 100, $200,000 to get the squatters to move out. And lots of times they damage the home on their way out because they feel it's their right to live there for free and
Yeah.
not pay any rent with a bogus lease. So someone in California, this happened to their parents, and they went to their parents, they got a lease. Now, the parents own a house. So they have a lease from the proper owners of the home, from the property owners. They move into the house. So now the squatters call the police and say, Hey, there's a squatter living in our squatters' quarters.
Well, they
And
went
the
and shared it with
squatters,
squatters.
pardon?
They move in and share it with the squatters.
Yeah, yeah. And the squatters are like, You can't move in. We're squatting here. And
Oh,
so then the police get called and the police come along and they take a look and they say, Oh, here's a valid lease and here's a valid lease. Well, we can't throw either one of you out. This is a civil matter. Go work it out in court.
yeah.
So now if you become an obnoxious squatter to the squatters then move out or you videotape them. But the really interesting one is you could take all of their possessions, bag it up, throw it out on the front lawn. And because you're not the landlord, there's no repercussions against you because you have a lease to be there. So if landlords would turn off the
Oh,
water, turn off the electricity, pack up the
right.
squatters' possessions, then they've been sued and they've lost. Landlords have lost in that.
So,
But
so this,
here,
this is a way to run around the Renters Protection Act.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think it's pretty clever.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that some smart lawyer never thought of this previously. And so now this guy is I guess made the rounds in social media and he's up in demand right now. I don't know if he charges for his services, but it would sure be a lot less expensive than having to hire go through the legal system.
Well, yeah, special. Yep, reminds me of those guys that harass telemarketers. Some way to
Or
punch back at the minor criminals.
yeah, yeah, or the scammers, right?
Yeah, I mean, I thought this was what the mob always used to do. You just get a strong man to go beat up people and throw them out of your building. And this is just sort of a slightly cleaner, more legal way of doing that.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the person gets to monitor as they move out so they don't destroy the property as well.
Yeah, well, if you formalize it a little and sell it a little more politely, our professional eviction specialist will politely and legally clean it, get that guy out of your place within a week with no damage for just
Yeah,
10,000 bucks. People would go for
yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
All right. What do you have for us next?
Well, Europe has passed the first major AI regulation. I've been waiting for news articles about it, and here's one of them saying that one of the things it requires is extensive logs. Emotion recognition will be banned in workplaces and classrooms. So
Oh,
I,
interesting.
because in
Yeah.
China they have these things in retail outlets where they check, they say you're not smiling enough. You can't go out of the break room onto the floor until your smile is better. And I guess those things will be banned. Um, so uh, they lay out cybersecurity requirements, strict rules on biometric use, which certainly is a good idea. And what happens is they, just like the other European regulations, I've heard all their cybersecurity, all their internet regulations sort companies into categories. And so there are certain conditions under which an AI system becomes high risk. And then that would be deployments on the education sector, critical infrastructure, justice, and democratic processes. And when they're high risk, then it has to meet mandatory requirements like risk management, data quality, transparency, human oversight, and accuracy. So, it sounds pretty good. And they say it does, in fact, reflect Biden's presidential order that came out about a month ago that just sort of in similar sort of high-level CISSP general management terms said your your tool should be accurate, it should not be racially biased, and so on. So it seems pretty good, really. But the logs might be a little strange. It must record each period of use of the system, the reference database against which input data has been checked, the input data for which the search led to a match, and the identification of the natural persons involved in verification of the results. So that's interesting because AI systems are unreliable, they hallucinate and make up lies, and apparently they require you to have humans check things and a document that humans did check things. So it'll be interesting to see how that actually plays out in practice because, of course, the whole point of the AI is you don't want to pay for all those human workers. So you can't have humans checking everything. So it'll be interesting to see quite how that works out. Would it be enough to
Yeah.
have humans like spot check 1% of the results to try to cut down on hallucinations? Would that be good enough, or what would it have to be? Anyway,
Yeah, interesting. So continuing on with AI, NVIDIA has their AI conference going on this week. It just started yesterday with the kickoff keynote speech. And some of the highlights from that are that NVIDIA is going to partner with Apple to bring AI to Apple's Vision Pro virtual reality headset. And we didn't really talk about that, but that's getting mixed reviews from what I've heard.
that's the one that cost $3,000.
Yeah, the $3,000.
Yeah,
And
reviews I've seen say it's pretty nice, but you probably will get tired of it soon and not want to use it all the time.
yeah, and I've heard people saying that they get headaches or they get dizzy and
Yeah, and it's
they
have
tried it. Yeah, they had a 2 week trial period where you could send it back and people are sending them back.
yeah,
And it'll be interesting to see if Apple comes up with the killer app that's going to have everybody run out and buy it. But we've seen that before; it hasn't happened.
yeah.
Anyway, so they're bringing Omniverse. NVIDIA is bringing Omniverse to Apple's Vision Pro.
What's Omniverse? Some kind of virtual reality world,
Yeah, it's Apple's world, I believe, or
like
it's NVIDIA's world.
like the metaverse.
Yeah, like the metaverse. Yeah,
Hopefully it's better
Omniverse.
because the metaverse was kind of a huge flop.
Yeah, is that still going on? That's
I
that's where you had people without legs
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
joke.
Well, and Zuck renamed the whole company of Facebook and focused the whole company on this for about 2 years. And he finally gave up like about 6 months ago. And that's when, Scott Galloway said, now's the time to buy Meta stock because this bad move depressed the stock way down in value. Now that he's finally knocked it off, the stock is going to come back up. And that's what happened. So I think
Yeah,
it's still happening, but he made it less of a huge focus of the company, less engineers working on it and stuff.
I see. So then they have Project Grote. I think is the way to pronounce it.
No, Groot.
Groot.
Groot, of
Groot.
course, from the movie. You didn't see it. There's a Marvel
Nope.
movie where there's a character that's like a living tree, and all he says is, "I am Groot," and he's the cute character. Anyway,
All right.
Groot.
So it's the foundation for humanoid robots. But how many times have we heard that? I heard Honda had humanoid robots years
Yes.
ago.
And Tesla, and I think Toyota.
Yeah, yeah. So now NVIDIA is getting into the software for the robots, I guess.
Your plastic
And
friend who's fun to be with. Well, I think it's inevitable. I mean,
yeah, oh, I think so too. Yeah, yeah.
they're getting pretty good.
And then they created a 6G research platform that's offering researchers a suite for AI radio access or radio access network technology. And this is going to be the foundation for hyper intelligent, these are quotes, right? Hyper intelligent world supported by autonomous vehicles. So they want in that space, smart spaces, which I guess is intelligent factories, intelligent homes, intelligent stores, and a whole bunch of other things, right? Including education. And I think in the education world, I could see that, but Microsoft tried that too with their augmented reality headset. And to be honest with you, I thought that was a very good idea because you could wear the headset and you could be fixing something like a tank or plumbing under a house, and the technician may not know how to do it. And so somebody can see there and point to something like loosen this nut or tighten that bolt, take this pipe apart, and you can both see. And so you're seeing through the eyes of the person doing the work. And the person can see, you can point to exactly remotely with an arrow or something. But for some reason, and I know the military invested heavily in that, and I don't know where that ever went, but it seemed like a good idea. I think people didn't like the headsets, and just like with Apple, they got sick.
Yeah, but
So
I
some
think
people did.
telemedicine is working this way. You can like do surgery with a robot at a distance. So,
Yeah.
so there's certainly a few niche applications. I just don't think this is something a normal person would want to use on a daily basis.
I don't think so either. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, we'll see. And Zuckerberg got involved in that, right? He came up with a headset.
Well, that's what the metaverse was supposed to be. And all this smart home makes me think of Bugs Bunny's smart home. And where
What
there's
was
just
that? Remind me.
it's a 1950s smart home. There's an intelligent door, an intelligent garage, an intelligent broom that just keeps shoving him out the door, and everything's broken and messed up. And or Tom Cruise's Minority Report, where every time he walks by a store, it says, "Hi, Tom, you should come in and try our new hamburger." And you bought this book last month. The sequels come out, and and your cereal box and everything is intelligent and has a customized ad bugging you with a personal, conversation with you that knows all about you.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
That's
that's kind of what I expect.
that's like trying to talk to a voice telephone system, right?
Yeah, but
I,
it's like the ultimate targeted advertising where the whole world is
yeah,
now driving you nuts more than ever.
yeah, yeah. True, true. All
I
right.
mean, why would I want
So
everything in my home to be smart and know what I'm doing and interact with me? I just want it to sit there until I turn on the light by pressing a button and otherwise leave me alone. Why, what else would I want?
yeah, exactly. I would agree.
Well, there are butlers, right? Butlers create happiness by anticipating your every need. That would be the ideal world. If your smart robot anticipates every need and provides every comfort, I guess.
Well, Disney tried that at Disneyland, and there's the secret restaurant, which names escapes me, in New Orleans Square,
Hmm.
that you have to pay $10,000, I think, a year to be a member of. And if you do, I believe it's the only place in Disney, again, Disneyland, not World, in California, that serves alcohol in the park.
Well,
So
yeah.
so they had a light fixture that was at every table that had a microphone in it. and somebody'd say, "Oh my, we're running out of bread here," and then magically a waiter, waitress, wait staff would appear with some bread and some butter, something like that.
Well, of course, you don't want them hearing your business conversation. That's why one thing I thought does make sense and goes back centuries is the British Gentlemen's Club, where you would go
Yeah.
there and it would be a comfortable environment where you would meet other people, and make professional contacts and do business deals and stuff.
Well, yeah. So the Disneyland hotel or restaurant, finally they ended it. They felt it was people felt it was a little too intrusive.
Yeah.
So
I think this is the big thing with all these smart devices and smart glasses and everything is what exactly do we want robots to do for us?
yeah, yeah,
Well, I got a couple more ones. There's a good link from Mastodon someone posted. Elsevier is the super expensive, I think, Swiss publishing company that publishes all the scientific journals that are huge paywalls, so nobody can see them except people that pay like $10,000 a year for a subscription. And it's the whole racket of scientific publication, a peer review, and all that. The only thing that counts when you try to get a professorship at a major university. It's been pretty much a scam for decades, and more scientists are rebelling and just putting their stuff on an open source platform like ARXIV. But anyway, these people made a large language model generated paper that is just full of mind-boggling medical jargon. And halfway through the paper, it actually says, I cannot write about this topic because I'm just an AI. Hello them, and they published the paper as a serious scientific paper. So it's sort of they've been justifying their existence by saying they have this peer review system and our papers meet the highest scientific quality, unlike the garbage you might find in normal magazines like Newsweek. And obviously that's not true. Just like Apple says, you should pay us 30% commission because we keep the Apple store really clean and no malware. And that's not entirely true either, although it's pretty much true. But anyway,
yeah,
obviously, they're much promoted peer review system is pretty much garbage and people just rubber stamp it and run it through without even reading it. And
yeah. Here, go ahead.
I got one more, which the last one is from the White House. There's a statement to counter the proliferation and misuse of commercial spyware, which of course has gotten really big with the Israeli spyware they put on your phone. I think Predator, where they and this is being used by a lot of repressive regimes to target journalists and activists and such. And now in March 18, which I guess just yesterday, they a whole bunch of countries all made this joint statement: Finland, German, Ireland, Japan, Poland, and Korea and America. Um, an official statement that recognized the threat by the misuse of commercial spyware, and they therefore advance a fundamental national security and policy interest in countering and preventing the proliferation of commercial spyware. So this is the kind of high-level government statement that I used to say doesn't mean anything, but now that I'm more working in government, I began to realize this does matter. This does set the direction, then come policies, then come rules. So it shows recognition of this risk, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah,
Although, of course, all the repressive countries didn't sign this thing, but like a nuclear arms treaty, you can begin to define here's the rules of like the civilized world, and we can contrast ourselves with the nasty parts of the world where they don't obey these rules.
yeah, yeah. I got it. So Sam, I just looked this up. It's at Disneyland, it's called 21 Royal, and it's $18,000 a meal for up to 12 guests. And it's where Walt Disney and his wife would have meals together in Disneyland Park.
This reminds me of a discussion I heard in a podcast the other day about supersonic planes. And they said the
Yeah.
problem with them is there's never going to be enough market because of the price. And really, you'd have to target it at billionaires, of which there are a lot. And billionaires will pay any amount of money to save time. So you're never going to reach very many people. You won't only reach the top 1%, but you could make a super expensive product just for them.
Yeah, but I think if you're a Disneyland uh, fan or aficionado, this
Yeah.
is one thing that's on people's buckets list, so to speak.
I know people like this where their
Yeah,
whole house is full of the little toys and their clothings all have the animated characters on it and they play that music at home. It's like a religion. They worship Disney and it's like the holy pilgrimage to Disneyland every year is like their Mecca.
yeah, Yeah. Well, it kind of was when I was younger.
Well, it's a lot less harmful than other cult groups, but
True.
there's people who
True.
become they're like Taylor Swifties, right? To spend their life, and it used to be Deadheads, right? Following the Grateful Dead every.
Yeah. Yeah.
The people just
Yeah.
find these somewhat frivolous things to attach themselves to, and it's sort of like a fun hobby, I guess.
Yeah. It's what you're interested in. It's what you like, what you enjoy.
Well, I guess a lot of sports fanatics like it too. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for me today.
And that's it for me too. Okay.
That's it. So
Well,
we'll see you on Friday, huh?
that's it. Another one on Friday. All right.
Sounds good.